core. We must never become too busy sawing to take time to sharpen the saw. Imagine a man in the woods, furiously hacking at a thick tree with a dull saw. He's sweating, panting, muscles aching. A stranger walks by and asks, "Why don't you take a few minutes to sharpen your saw?" The man replies, "I can't stop. I'm too busy cutting." That man is us. That man is the world we live in. We are always cutting, always moving, always pushing ourselves harder, faster, further. But we rarely pause to ask, is the tool I'm using, me, still sharp? You are the saw. You are the most important tool in your life. It's not your degree, your phone, your job title, or your bank account. It's you. Your mind, your body, your heart, and your soul. If you go dull, everything else around you follows. And yet, we neglect ourselves more than anything else. We rush from meeting to meeting, from task to task, telling ourselves we'll rest when the job is done. But let me tell you something that could save your future. The job is never done. There's always another deadline, another crisis, another demand waiting for you. If you don't choose to pause and renew, life will force you to stop through exhaustion, illness, burnout, or breakdown. You have to choose to sharpen the saw before it's too late. I once sat down with a young entrepreneur. Smart, driven, ambitious. He told me he'd been working 14-hour days for 6 months. His startup was growing fast. From the outside, he was a success story, but his eyes told another story. Tired, anxious, disconnected. I asked him, "How often do you unplug? When do you take time to think, to rest, to grow?" He looked at me confused. "I don't have time for that," he said. I leaned forward and said, "You don't have time not to." What he didn't realize is what many people fail to see. When you take time to renew yourself, you don't fall behind. You gain strength, clarity, energy. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop surviving and start creating. The key isn't to stop working. The key is to recognize that you are the generator of your results. If you're depleted, your results will suffer, no matter how hard you push. The more you sharpen the saw, the more effective every swing becomes. A sharp saw cuts clean. A dull saw leaves you wounded. Now, sharpening yourself doesn't mean luxury or laziness. It means investing in what truly matters. It means moving from urgency to importance. Instead of mindlessly scrolling your phone for an hour, take a 20-minute walk. Instead of skipping meals to hit deadlines, nourish your body and come back stronger. Instead of avoiding hard conversations with loved ones, lean in, reconnect, and heal. Instead of only consuming negative news, feed your mind with powerful books, new skills, and fresh ideas. This process isn't complicated, but it requires intention. We live in a world that glorifies business. But effectiveness isn't about how busy you are. It's about how much of you is showing up in what you do. If your mind is foggy, your body aching, your spirit crushed, how can you give your best? You can't. That's why the 7th habit is so vital. It's the habit that protects all the others. Without renewal, even the strongest will fall. I want you to imagine a life where you're energized, focused, clear, where your creativity flows, your relationships thrive, and your body feels alive. That's not a fantasy. That's the natural result of daily renewal. And it starts with a simple decision to stop ignoring yourself. You are not a machine. You are a living, growing, feeling being. Treat yourself like someone who deserves care, because you do. Every great leader, every game changer, every fulfilled human I've met has one thing in common. They invest in themselves consistently, without apology, without delay. So today, make that decision, set a time. Write it down. Take one action to sharpen yourself. Because if you do not choose to sharpen the saw, you will spend your whole life cutting with a dull one. And that's not only inefficient, it's painful. You deserve better. You are better. Start acting like it. Sharpen your life. Sharpen every great achievement you can dream of. Every mountain you hope to climb. Every goal you want to conquer. Every difference you want to make rests on one critical foundation: your physical energy. Without health, without stamina, without strength, even the grandest vision becomes a burden. And yet, in the pursuit of our ambitions, our careers, our daily demands, the very thing we rely on most, our bodies, is what we neglect the most. We live in a culture that applauds hustle and grinds itself into the ground, where rest is seen as weakness, where skipping meals is worn like a badge of honor, where exhaustion is a trophy. But the truth is simple: if your body breaks down, everything else follows. Your energy is your power plant. Your physical health is not a luxury, it is a necessity. I remember meeting a teacher named Sarah who had given everything to her students. She arrived early, stayed late, skipped meals, survived on caffeine, and never said no. But after a few years, she burned out. Not mentally, physically. Her immune system weakened, her sleep was shattered, her energy disappeared. She said, "I love what I do, but I hate how I feel." That sentence hit me hard. How many people love their purpose, but are crushed by the state of their health? And here's what I told her, and what I'll tell you now: you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot serve others if you're constantly running on fumes. You cannot lead with excellence if your body is in survival mode. Your body is the engine of everything else. When you take care of it, you don't just feel better. You think clearer, decide smarter, connect deeper, and act bolder. Let's get practical. Physical renewal doesn't mean becoming a fitness influencer or running marathons. It means honoring your body with consistency. It means moving it every day, even if it's just walking around the block. It means choosing water over soda, sleep over scrolling, whole foods over junk. It means listening to your body's signals instead of pushing through until you crash. One of the most powerful things you can do for your long-term effectiveness is to schedule movement into your day as non-negotiable. Just like meetings, just like deadlines, your physical health deserves time on the calendar. I once coached a busy executive who told me he had no time to exercise. I asked him, "Do you have time to be in a hospital? Do you have time to lose years of life because you refuse to give 20 minutes a day to the body that keeps you alive?" He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I never thought of it that way." That's the point. We never think of it that way until we're forced to. Don't wait for your body to scream before you start listening to its whispers. Prevention is power. Maintenance is mastery. Energy doesn't just happen. It's cultivated. It's built through sleep, nutrition, hydration, movement, and stress management. If you're eating once a day, sleeping 4 hours, drinking caffeine instead of water, and wondering why you feel exhausted, look no further. Your body is not your enemy. It's trying to keep you alive while you ignore its needs. Show it some respect. Show it some care. Fuel it, rest it, move it, stretch it, breathe with it. And you'll see that everything in your life improves. Not just your health, but your relationships, your work, your joy. Let's talk about sleep. Sleep is not laziness. It's strategy. During sleep, your brain processes memories, your muscles repair, your hormones balance. Missing sleep is like trying to run a race on a sprained ankle. It might look heroic, but it's not sustainable. Prioritize your rest. Set a routine. Turn off the devices. Give your body the recovery it needs to fight another day. Let's talk about food. Food is not just fuel, it's information. Every bite you take either strengthens your body or stresses it. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be conscious. Eat to perform. Eat to last. Eat to live. A small change, like switching out sugar for fruit or skipping late-night junk, can shift your energy in dramatic ways. Your physical well-being is not optional. It is essential. And it is not selfish to prioritize your health. It is responsible. Because when you feel strong, you lead better. When you feel vibrant, you love deeper. When you feel energized, you create more freely. Your body is the home of your potential. Treat it like a temple, not a trash bin. So I challenge you today. Make one physical commitment. Whether it's a walk, a healthy meal, a longer sleep, do it. Make it daily. Make it sacred. Because when you renew your body, you are not just sharpening the saw. You are building the strength to swing it with power, precision, and purpose. And that strength will take you farther than talent or knowledge ever could. Your energy. Sharpen your purpose. and watch how everything else begins to transform. Your mind is your command center. Everything you experience, every success you chase, every problem you solve, every decision you make flows through your mind. If your mind is weak, tired, or starved, you can't possibly operate at your full potential. Yet most people go through life feeding their minds garbage, neglecting their thoughts, and failing to challenge themselves intellectually. Just as your body needs exercise, your mind needs training. It needs sharpening. If you want to live an effective, powerful, meaningful life, you must renew your mind deliberately and consistently. You must treat your thoughts like they matter, because they do. What you think determines what you become. There's a simple truth that few talk about: you are what you consume, not just physically but mentally. If you spend hours scrolling through negativity, watching mindless videos, absorbing criticism, gossip, and fear, you are programming your brain with junk, and then you wonder why you feel anxious, unfocused, unmotivated. But imagine instead that every day you chose to read even one chapter of a good book. Imagine watching a documentary that challenges your thinking, or listening to a podcast that expands your worldview. That's how mental renewal works. It's not a one-time burst of inspiration. It's a daily habit of feeding your intellect with excellence. I once worked with a young man who felt stuck in his job. He wasn't challenged, wasn't growing, and didn't see a path forward. I asked him one question: "What are you learning right now?" He paused, shrugged, and said, "Nothing really." So I gave him an assignment. For 30 days, I told him to read 10 pages a day of any book that taught him something new. I didn't care what it was: psychology, leadership, history, even fiction that made him think. A month later, he came back to me with a fire in his eyes. He had new ideas for work, started writing again, and even enrolled in an online course. What changed? Not his job, not his manager, his mind. He stopped consuming the ordinary and started pursuing the extraordinary. Sharpening your mind doesn't require money or degrees. It requires curiosity and commitment. Think of your mind like a muscle. If you never challenge it, it atrophies. If you challenge it daily, it grows. But most people spend more time planning their vacations than planning their personal growth. They binge on entertainment, but never study their own lives. They know the latest celebrity gossip, but can't explain their own goals. That's not because they lack intelligence. It's because they haven't made mental growth a priority. But when you make that shift, when you turn your attention toward building a better mind, you'll find yourself thinking deeper, solving faster, and connecting ideas you never saw before. There's power in reflection too. Mental renewal isn't just about input. It's about processing. You need time to think. Time to ask yourself big questions. What did I learn today? What worked? What didn't? What do I believe and why? Journal your thoughts. Debate with yourself. Ask people with different views how they see the world. Not to argue, but to understand. The more angles you see, the sharper your mind becomes. Intelligence isn't memorizing facts. It's the ability to think clearly, creatively, and compassionately under pressure. That comes through practice, not chance. And let's talk about silence. In a noisy world, silence is a rare gift. Turn everything off for 10 minutes a day. No phone, no music. Just you and your thoughts. Most people are scared of silence because in silence they face themselves. But that's where transformation happens. In stillness, your best ideas rise. Your real values speak. Your long-buried dreams resurface. Silence isn't empty, it's full of answers. Make space for it. I challenge you today to take your mind seriously. Choose one book and finish it. Subscribe to a podcast that makes you better. Watch content that educates, not just entertains. Take notes. Keep a list of ideas. Learn something new every day. Not because someone told you to, but because your future demands it. You cannot lead, love, create, or live fully with a weak or wandering mind. But when your thoughts are sharp, focused, and empowered, there is no challenge you can't overcome. You will see solutions others miss. You will feel confident in uncertainty. You will rise while others retreat. Sharpening the mind is not about showing off your knowledge. It's about preparing yourself for life. Because life will test you. And when it does, your mind, not your luck, not your charm, will determine how you respond. So make the decision now. Be a lifelong learner. Feed your intellect. Challenge your assumptions. Think big, think deep, think true. Because a sharp mind cuts through every excuse, every fear, every obstacle in its way. And that is how you win. There is a part of you that no one else can see. It doesn't show up in your resume, your bank account, or your Instagram feed. It doesn't shout for attention. But when it's neglected, everything else starts to unravel. That part is your spirit, your inner world, the place where your purpose lives, where your deepest values reside, where your strength is born. In today's world, where we are constantly pulled in 1,000 directions, where urgency drowns out meaning, where noise drowns out clarity, the need for spiritual renewal has never been greater. Sharpening the saw means renewing yourself in all dimensions. And the spiritual is often the most overlooked, but it is the deepest, the most stabilizing, and the most vital of them all. We live in a time of endless distractions. We wake up to notifications, go to bed with anxiety, fill our days with doing, but rarely stop to ask, why am I doing all this? What is it all for? If you don't connect to a deeper purpose, if you don't build a foundation rooted in meaning, you will be tossed around by every storm. Success will feel hollow. Pressure will feel overwhelming. And burnout will feel inevitable. But when you are anchored spiritually, when you are deeply in tune with who you are and what you believe, then you become unshakable. The world may still be chaotic, but you will have peace within the storm. I once met a man who had achieved everything society told him to chase: wealth, recognition, influence. But he told me, I still feel empty, like I climbed a ladder, only to find it leaning against the wrong wall. That's the tragedy of a life lived without spiritual grounding. You can win in the eyes of the world and still feel lost inside. The solution isn't more success. The solution is connection. To your core, your creator, your higher self, whatever name you give it. You need time to reflect, time to pray, time to breathe deeply and just be. That's not a weakness. That's where true strength comes from. Spiritual renewal looks different for everyone. For some, it's time spent in prayer or scripture. For others, it's meditation, quiet reflection, walking in nature, or listening to music that lifts the soul. It's not about rituals. It's about reconnecting with what matters most. It's about stripping away the noise and asking, who am I? Really, what do I stand for? What kind of life do I want to live? What kind of legacy do I want to leave? When you make space to ask these questions regularly, you begin to live on purpose. Not just react, not just survive. You begin to move with intention. I remember speaking with a firefighter who told me that before every shift, he lights a candle, takes 3 deep breaths, and says a silent prayer. It only takes a few minutes, but he said it centers him. It reminds him of his calling, his courage, and his compassion. That small act has helped him stay calm in chaos, to respond with clarity when lives are on the line. That's the power of spiritual grounding. It doesn't just make you feel good. It gives you presence. It gives you direction. It gives you peace that cannot be stolen by the noise of the world. One of the most powerful acts of spiritual sharpening is gratitude. When you live in gratitude, your whole perspective shifts. You stop focusing on what you lack and start seeing what you have. You stop complaining about problems and start appreciating opportunities. A grateful spirit is a resilient spirit. So take time each day to reflect on what you're thankful for. Not in a forced way, but with sincerity. Write it down. Speak it aloud. Feel it. Gratitude connects you with abundance. It reminds you that you are already blessed, already enough, already equipped for what comes next. You also need to align your actions with your values. It's not enough to believe in kindness, compassion, honesty, or courage. You must live those values daily. Spiritual sharpening happens when your inner world and your outer actions match. When what you say and what you do are in harmony. That kind of integrity builds confidence, trust, and influence. It makes you whole. It makes you real. In the end, spiritual renewal is not about escaping life. It's about engaging it more fully, with purpose, with perspective, with power. You may not control what happens to you, but you can always control how grounded you are when it happens. And that grounding, that inner clarity and strength, only comes when you consistently take time to connect with what's eternal, with what's true, with what's sacred. So today, take that time. Even if it's just 5 minutes, light a candle, sit in silence, read something meaningful, say a prayer, reflect on your purpose, reconnect with your soul. Because when your spirit is strong, your life becomes focused, your actions become powerful, and your path becomes clear. That is the quiet, invisible strength that carries you through the noise and into a life that truly matters. Human beings are wired for connection. We are not machines built just for performance. We are emotional creatures built for love, for empathy, for community. You can have all the intelligence, talent, and drive in the world. But if your relationships are broken, if your heart is tired, if your connections are empty, life loses its meaning. Emotional renewal is the process of restoring the heart, of healing the relationships, of nurturing the connections that give life its deepest joy and purpose. We spend so much time sharpening our skills and building our resumes, yet we forget to care for our emotional core. We forget to care for our relationships, our families, our friends, and even our relationship with ourselves. We live in a world where people are constantly connected digitally, but feel more emotionally isolated than ever. Social media gives the illusion of closeness, yet we often feel unseen, unheard, misunderstood. We scroll through highlight reels while battling loneliness and silence. Emotional exhaustion builds up, not from doing too much, but from feeling too little. When we fail to renew emotionally, we start numbing ourselves. We avoid real conversations. We stop expressing gratitude. We withdraw from those who care about us. We bottle up anger, resentment, and pain until it hardens into indifference. But you were not designed to live numb. You were created to feel deeply, to love deeply, to give and receive emotionally. I once spoke with a man who had built a successful business, but admitted that he hadn't hugged his son in weeks. He said, "I've been too focused on providing for him, and now I don't know how to connect with him." That broke my heart, because providing is not just about money. It's about presence. It's about showing up emotionally. His story is not unique. Millions of people are giving their all to their careers, while their emotional worlds crumble. They miss the laughter at dinner, the quiet moments of understanding, the touch of kindness, the power of saying, "I'm proud of you," or "I'm sorry," or "I love you." We don't just need productivity. We need people. We need warmth. We need renewal of the heart. Sharpening your emotional saw starts with self-awareness. You cannot fix what you don't feel. You must learn to check in with yourself regularly. How am I really feeling? Am I carrying unresolved anger? Am I bottling up stress? Am I avoiding someone I care about? Emotional intelligence isn't just about managing others. It begins with knowing yourself. When you acknowledge your feelings, you don't get weaker. You get stronger. Because now you're no longer reacting blindly. You're choosing consciously. You're not lashing out. You're reaching in. Another powerful way to renew emotionally is through intentional relationships. Not all relationships are equal. Some drain you. Some energize you. You need to make time for the people who truly see you, support you, and challenge you to grow. And you need to be that person for others. That means listening with full presence. That means forgiving when it's hard. That means offering love without keeping score. Strong emotional health is built in the quiet moments, a conversation without distractions, a compliment without expectation, a hug without words. And yes, forgiveness is a massive part of emotional renewal. Carrying resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. It corrodes you from the inside. Forgiveness doesn't mean what they did was right. It means you're no longer willing to let it control your peace. Letting go doesn't make you weak. It makes you free. It gives you back your emotional energy to invest where it matters. Gratitude is another tool. When you practice gratitude in your relationships, they flourish. Thank your partner not just for the big gestures, but the little things. Appreciate your friends. Celebrate your children. Say thank you more often. Gratitude shifts your emotional state from stress to strength, from fear to fulfillment. It reminds you that you're not alone, that you're surrounded by blessings, often in the people you take for granted. Most importantly, renew your emotional connection with yourself. Speak to yourself with kindness. Stop the inner criticism. Replace "I'm not good enough" with "I'm growing." Replace "I failed" with "I'm learning." Emotional strength isn't about avoiding feelings. It's about embracing them, understanding them, and using them as a source of power. When you treat yourself with compassion, you become more capable of giving love to others. So today, take one small but powerful step. Call someone you've been meaning to call. Apologize to someone you hurt. Write a thank you note. Have a heart-to-heart with your child. Put your phone away and really listen to your partner. Sit in silence and ask yourself what your heart truly needs. Because when your emotional life is renewed, your entire life becomes richer. Your work becomes more inspired. Your relationships become deeper. Your presence becomes more impactful. That is the reward of emotional sharpening, not just effectiveness, but real, meaningful connection. And that is what we're all really seeking. Life is not lived in compartments. You are not just a physical body, a thinking brain, a feeling heart, or a spiritual being. You are all of these at once, woven together into a whole person. And yet we often live as if these parts of us are separate. We chase physical goals while ignoring our mental health. We feed our minds with knowledge while starving our bodies of rest. We pray with passion but neglect our relationships. And slowly, our lives begin to wobble like a table with missing legs. Balance is not a luxury. It is the structure that holds your entire life up. Without it, even the strongest habits collapse under pressure. Balance doesn't mean perfection. It means paying attention to every part of yourself, giving energy to each area so that no part of your life is running on empty. You can't just work out every day and ignore your emotional life. You can't just meditate and neglect sleep. You can't just learn new skills while isolating yourself from loved ones. Real effectiveness comes from alignment. When your body is healthy, your mind is sharp, your emotions are stable, and your spirit is grounded, you move through life with power and grace. You are centered. You are stable. You are ready for whatever comes your way. I once met a high-level executive who was incredibly successful in his career. He was disciplined, focused, and had climbed the corporate ladder with remarkable speed. But behind closed doors, he was falling apart. He was out of shape, constantly stressed, emotionally distant from his family, and spiritually numb. He told me, "I've mastered my work, but I've lost myself." That sentence is more common than you think. Mastery in one area does not compensate for neglect in others. The cost of imbalance is always greater than it seems. It starts quietly as fatigue, anxiety, or disconnection. But over time, it becomes burnout, breakdown, or regret. The solution is not to give up your drive, but to spread your energy wisely across all dimensions of your life. Creating balance starts with awareness. Ask yourself, where am I over-investing? Where am I under-investing? Are you spending 10 hours a day on work, but 0 minutes on self-care? Are you constantly helping others, but never pausing to connect with your own thoughts? Are you pursuing productivity at the cost of peace? Balance requires honesty. You have to admit where you are neglecting yourself, not out of guilt, but out of love. Because when you care for all parts of yourself, you don't just live better, you live longer, with more fulfillment and fewer regrets. One powerful exercise I give people is to rate themselves in each of the 4 key areas of life: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, on a scale from 1 to 10. Where are you thriving? Where are you merely surviving? It's not about judgment. It's about clarity. Once you see the imbalance, you can begin to restore it. You don't have to overhaul your entire life. Small, consistent actions make a big difference. Maybe it's a morning stretch to care for your body, reading 10 pages to stimulate your mind, texting a friend to nurture your emotional life, or 5 minutes of silence to reconnect with your spirit. When you give each area at least some attention, your entire life begins to feel more grounded. Balance also means setting boundaries. You cannot be available to everyone at all times without eventually becoming unavailable to yourself. Learn to say no without guilt. Learn to rest without apology. Learn to pause without fear. The world will keep spinning. Your inbox will always be full. But if you do not guard your energy, it will be drained before you even get to the things that truly matter. Balance is not about doing everything. It's about doing what matters most in each area of your life. Another key to balance is rhythm. Life isn't static. Some seasons require more focus on one area than others. Maybe a health challenge forces you to prioritize your body. Maybe a crisis in your family shifts your emotional energy. That's okay. Balance doesn't mean equal time every day. It means listening to what your life is asking of you and responding with wisdom. What matters is that you always come back to center, always make time to restore what's been depleted. When your life is balanced, you don't just survive your schedule. You thrive in it. You don't just chase goals. You enjoy the journey. You don't just function. You flourish. That is the power of balance. It's not flashy. It doesn't always get applause. But it is the quiet force that allows you to show up fully in every area of life. So today, take a moment. Check in with yourself. Where are you strong? Where are you empty? Then take one step to restore the balance. One small act of renewal in a neglected area can restore stability to your entire life. And from that place of balance, there is nothing you cannot build. Sharpening the saw is not a one-time decision. It is not a weekend activity, a New Year's resolution, or something you do when life slows down. It is a way of life. The final truth about self-renewal is that it must be consistent, daily, ongoing, deliberate. It is not about intensity, but about continuity. You don't become effective by sharpening yourself once and then going back to dull living. You stay effective by committing to the discipline of renewal every single day. The same way you wouldn't sharpen a saw once and expect it to cut forever, you cannot renew your body, mind, heart, or spirit once and expect lifelong performance. It is the daily rhythm of sharpening that creates the long-term results you dream of. Most people understand the value of growth, but they treat it like an event instead of a process. They wait for retreats, seminars, or life crises to force change. But real transformation is not born in dramatic moments. It happens in the quiet, ordinary, consistent actions that most people overlook. The truth is, excellence is boring. It's not loud or flashy. It's built in the invisible hours. When you go for the walk, even though you're tired. When you read the chapter, even when you're distracted. When you say the kind word, even when you're frustrated. When you sit in silence, even when you'd rather scroll. These are the sharpening moments, and they are what separate the truly effective from the endlessly busy. I once spoke with a woman who was inspired by the concept of renewal. She took a weekend to rest, to reflect, to realign. It was beautiful. But 2 months later, she was back to being overwhelmed, exhausted, scattered. She said, "I don't know what happened. I tried, but it didn't last." I asked her what she did after that weekend. She paused and said, "Honestly, nothing." That's the mistake. You can't renew yourself once and expect it to sustain you. Life will keep draining you. That's not a flaw. That's reality. Your energy, your clarity, your emotional stability, they all require maintenance. If you stop renewing, you start declining. This is why you must build renewal into your routine. Not as a reaction, but as a ritual. Think of it like brushing your teeth. You don't wait until your mouth is full of cavities. You do it daily because it keeps you clean, fresh, and functioning. Renewal is the same. Build it into your mornings. Protect it in your evenings. Make space for it in your weekends. Don't wait until you're broken. Stay ahead of the burnout by staying in touch with yourself. Start simple. Choose one activity each day that renews you in each of the 4 dimensions. Walk or stretch for your body. Read or reflect for your mind. Connect with someone you love for your heart. Pray, meditate, or sit in silence for your spirit. These don't have to take hours. They can take 5 minutes each. But over time, they create compound strength. 5 minutes a day becomes a lifetime of power. The goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to be consistent. If you miss a day, start again the next. If you fall off, climb back on. That's how habits work. They grow when you practice them more than you avoid them. Sharpening the saw daily also builds momentum. The more you do it, the more you want to keep doing it. The more you feel the benefits, the less likely you are to quit. You start to enjoy the clarity, the energy, the peace, the connection. It becomes something you look forward to, not something you force. And once it becomes a part of your identity, once you see yourself as someone who renews, you will no longer need motivation. It will be who you are. One of the greatest myths in our world is that success comes from nonstop hustle. But the most effective people understand that true success is sustainable only through rhythm. They don't just sprint, they pace themselves. They don't just work hard, they recover hard. They know that without sharpening, even the most talented blade will go dull. So they protect their rituals, they schedule their renewal, and they treat their well-being as sacred. You must do the same. Choose today to become someone who renews, someone who sharpens, someone who takes responsibility not just for performance but for longevity. Because when you do, you'll not only produce more, you'll feel more alive while doing it. You'll stop running on empty. You'll stop crashing and recovering. You'll move through life with strength, stability, and purpose. And that consistency will make you unstoppable. So commit to the long game. Sharpen daily. No matter how small the action, no matter how ordinary the moment, keep showing up for yourself. Because you are the saw. And the sharper you stay, the more powerfully you can cut through every challenge, every barrier, and every opportunity life puts in front of you.